Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome to the DeFi Edge podcast, episode 2. Today we got me and Abs. We're going to be just chatting about what's going on in DeFi, cryptocurrency, looking at the latest trends, narratives, and what's up. Abs, what you got for us, man?
Oh man, I'm happy to be here for DeFi Edge number 2. There's a lot to talk about. I mean, the last time we spoke, we got together and it was a lot has happened in a week. And this is crypto, right? Crypto is a crazy little, industry, crazy little space. And literally in a week, the last 7 days has been just so much going on. I also think that I think right now it's actually ETH Denver is happening. I was planning on going, but obviously I had some stuff I had to take care of back here, back at home. But I have some friends over there in Denver, just having fun, partying it up. I'm sure that you've seen some of the videos and the opening ETH Denver ceremony. If you haven't seen that, I think you should take a look at that because it's kind of interesting. I wouldn't say it looks great, but it was a little cringe. I don't know. That's my initial thoughts on that opening ceremony. Did you see it?
I didn't get to check out the ceremony, but I was there last year. It wasn't. It was wild last year. It was fun. So if you guys ever get the chance to go to ETH Denver, I highly recommend it. It's basically just a big old nerd herd, and the nerds just try to be cool, and I was one of the nerds, and it's fun. Just go out there, you'll have a lot of fun. But no, I didn't see the intro to ETH Denver. But if people are asking, is there alpha? Well, the alpha is all in the networking, and you can actually not see, but you can get over there and you can get like a handshake, a face-to-face meet, and kind of see which projects are legit or ones that actually know what they're doing, or they're just kind of lost in the space. Yeah, here's some free merch. What am I doing here? It's fun. You'll like it there.
Yeah, I think that's it's definitely one of the things on my bucket list, and I'm pretty sure once I go once, then I'll probably want to go every single year. Given that we're nerds, we're in this space, we're DeFiing it up, we're degenning, and obviously we have this podcast to talk about it. So, so I wanted to kind of talk about the your outlook, you specifically, Drake, your outlook and your current plays. Like, what are you bullish on? What are you investing in? And what are you looking at?
So right now, we kind of just had a dump last night. If by just whenever you guys are watching this, just to kind of timestamp and date it, this is March 3rd. March 2nd, last night we had a nice. It wasn't a cascade, but Bitcoin probably dumped like 4 or 5%, and of course DeFi and altcoins, some of them across the board probably dropped like 15, 20, 25%. Some of them even more, just depending what you were on. But me personally, just looking at the liquidity flows, Arbitrum is still getting a little bit of liquidity coming its way, but it seems to be slowing down a bit. I wouldn't say it's the first decline we've had on Arbitrum, but we're seeing a little bit. We're seeing some people start to pivot to other chains, like Optimism being one of them. And in my opinion, I think Canto is being slept on a little bit. It did take a nice dumper yesterday, especially mainly with the Canto price. Yeah, I can't believe it. But Canto itself, I think that one's being slept on. Same thing with Optimism, with the latest narrative of Coinbase chain or Base being built using the OP stack. Now, what does this mean for Optimism? Well, the foundation itself is going to get some revenue from the transactions that happen on Coinbase. The reason I call it revenue is because a portion of those fees are actually going to go back to the foundation. And you can kind of look at Optimism and the OP token like the curve flywheel, but with chains. So Coinbase chain is just one of the first iterations. Just imagine other exchanges or other projects that come along using the OP stack, and this brings value back to Ethereum, one, and two, it also brings value to Optimism because they're driving revenue and they're getting money from this, and then they can leverage that using the OP token as their incentive token for other developers and people to build by giving out grants, This stirs up more transactions on the chain because people want to go farm and hunt around and play. So you can kind of look at Optimism as its own flywheel with the OP token, similar to Curve. And of course, Canto, it's got its own little narrative. And one other one, not too many people are talking about, is Kava. Kava they're starting to roll out their EVM. I mean, they've had it, but they're actually starting to market and focus on it a bit, and they're starting to build a couple protocols out there. They just launched a borrowing and lending protocol. They already had one, but they just launched another one. It's like Mare Finance. It was paying at one point. It was like a couple thousand%. Of course, those get diluted. But basically, it's like Aave. You can just loop around and basically juice the yield. So like right now, stable coins looks like they're paying, what is it, 33%? Let's see. Oh no, they got diluted a bit. So stable coins are probably about 10-15% now. But if you loop it, you could probably get like 25%. But the main reason why the Mare token is down a bit is because it was depending on emissions from Equilibre. It's a solidly fork over on Kava. But I think once people start to catch on that the Kava Foundation is going to juice $1 million in liquidity incentives into that, and being that there are very few protocols on there, I think some people might get signs of, oh, hey, maybe this could be like a Polygon rotation. There's really not much TVL on Kava. I mean, it's got like 189 million, but in general on the Kava EVM, there's not as much. So I think there could be a small narrative over there. But right now, I think the major focus for me, at least, is going to be Optimism right now.
That's interesting. There's actually, and I want to pick your brain on the Optimism ecosystem for a second. So there's this obviously the GMX the derivatives space, and I wanted to know, what are you mainly bullish on? Are you mainly bullish on Lyra or OPX, or is there another protocol that you're interested in? Because obviously every single chain, and that's that's basically been the most popular narrative, right? It's the real yield. It's the the GMX forks. So Optimism has their own, right? So I was wondering, what are you thinking that might be a big, nice degen play, or a safe trade?
So a lot of the Optimism plays have, no, I wouldn't say a lot, but several of the Optimism plays had pumped. We did get a bit of a pullback from its highs with the dump on Bitcoin, but I mean, not most of the move, but a big move has already been made. Two of my favorite ones are going to be Velodrome and Quinta. They are up much higher than when I got in. Velodrome, I've been in that since July, so I've been in that a bit of time. Rode it through the
Right.
pumps and the dumps. And Quinta is interesting because if you go on CoinGecko, let me see, what is their market cap? So yeah, the market cap of this sucker, it shows 86 million, and the FDV is 263 million. But what's interesting is most of those tokens are locked. So if people are farming the Quinta token, those tokens are escrowed Quinta. So they are not liquid. And they have, let's see, their stats, I haven't, the last I checked them was a couple of days ago. They were doing over 600, either 500 or 600 million in total trading volume since like deployment. So basically in about, not deployment from initial deployment, but mainly on Optimism and Arbitrum. Well, they aren't on Arbitrum yet, but they will be there, in my opinion. But since the deployment and going live on Optimism, it's just been going crazy. I'm
Can you
trying to
spell
look for
Quinta?
Kwenta. I'm trying to
Gotcha.
look for the stat page so I can. I'll just go on Dune. Forget this. But yeah, the stats are super good. I'm trying to find them. But yeah, Quinta and Velodrome are the two that I really like, but Quinta kind of pumped a lot. So Oh yeah, here it is. So it's something to be careful with. I would look for pullbacks on it. Like right now, it's literally in price discovery. It's at $511. I remember buying this thing. It wasn't sub 100. It was probably like 150 or 140 when I was buying this token, and this was when everyone was talking about Arbitrum. The reason why I like Quinta because they first started out with an airdrop, so I thought it was kind of interesting. But basically, you could have gotten, I think it was one or two Quinta for free just for trading on their decks. Where is it? Man, I want to find this stat page. I just had it. Oh,
Yeah,
it's in my
I'm
Twitter
looking at it
thread
as
I
well.
made.
So the market cap is at 85 million. Liquidity is at 2.3 million for the trading pair of Quinta to wrapped ETH. And you said majority of this is locked?
Majority of this lot is locked, so the actual circulating liquid supply is 58,000 quinta. So if you multiply that by the market cap, you can call it maybe 26-30 million dollars,
Wow.
26 to 30 million. So it's a low market cap coin, whereas the tokens that are being earned, they're locked for at least a year. So I mean, it's like the supply is really illiquid, which short term allows this type of price discovery because it's a really illiquid token. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, it definitely does make sense. I was just looking at on Twitter, just surfing through, and I did see Quinta pop up a few times. It didn't. I know of the name after you spelled it, but actually didn't know what it actually did. But now it all makes sense. It looks to me that this might be a nice competitor to some of the perpetual contracts that's already on Optimism.
Yeah, here it is. Okay, so it was 600 million in volume. So literally since actually the majority of the volume has really occurred since the start of February, but just for technical purposes, since December 20th to today, which is about 2 months, these guys have done over $604 million in volume. But like theoretically, like if you want to crunch the numbers, like how it really is, the majority of that volume has been done from February 6th to today. So in a month, they've done that, which is crazy. I mean, for comparison, GMX, I mean, if you want to get down to the numbers, I mean, GMX has been around, not been around, but like they've stood like Quinta's been around, but it's been on ETH. Most people don't really use it on ETH because gas fees and whatnot. But GMX has been around for the majority of the time. And for comparison, yeah, their volume is way higher. They do like 106 billion. So of course, it's like 100 or not 100 times. Well, yeah, it is about 100 times it. But you're comparing two separate protocols. You have to understand that markets, they price in what is to come than what is there. So like when you see TVL charts, I think we were talking about this last week, like with the solidly forks, as you see the growth just going astronomically, as soon as it starts to peak, that's when the price just immediately, not immediately dumps, but there's a massive retrace. It's because the market is expecting the price to keep pumping and following with the volume. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yep, it
Yeah,
does.
so the markets are always forward looking. Now, of course, as soon as you start to see the TVL start to take a dip a little bit, then you have that issue. But Quinta has like a somewhat of a flywheel that's incentivizing this trading, similar to Vela or Velos. You've heard of Vela.
LS, yes, I have heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, the Arbitrum thing. They have their own flywheel where they're incentivizing traders to trade by giving out liquidity incentives. It's the same thing with Quinta. They're actually giving out some of the tokens as well, depending on the amount of trading volume that you have. So you have this cyclical flywheel. So if you liked what Velas did, it could potentially do the same with Quinta if it does have that volume behind it. But still, a majority of the move has already been made. So I'm not saying to buy this now. I mean, I don't know. It could keep pumping. It could dump. I think risk reward for me personally, I would look for a dip for a better entry and keep an eye on the Optimism TVL. Because if you factor in if the Optimism TVL goes to 2 billion from 1 billion, that's a 2x increase. I could see Quinta doing extremely well from that because I know it will get some liquidity from that.
And also, what's also bullish about this is that you're killing two birds with one stone, right? You're playing around with the Quinta protocol, as well as you are also within the Optimism, RPC. So, you're basically doing these transactions, and potentially you could get the eventual Optimism airdrop. And do you
Yeah,
know how often the airdrop? What's that cycle? Is that almost 3 to 4 months every single time, or is that because I know that the last airdrop was, I think it was in January, no?
it's completely random, is what I take from it. I
Got
mean,
it.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm sure if you want to say yeah, it's like every 3 or 4 months, we can go for that. I don't think they have a set date. I think they just take random snapshots, like, oh, hey, we need to pump the chain type of thing.
Yeah, and I
um,
think yeah, and I think it's actually, pretty nice because, you're playing around with the ecosystem, and you could potentially get a nice little airdrop. I know that some people in the last airdrop received around, $600, $800 worth of Optimism tokens. Obviously, that's nice, and you can do more with that cash, right? Because it's free.
yeah.
So it's an added bonus.
Yeah, and I want to. I know you were asking about Lyra Finance as well. I've made several videos on those and threads on Lyra Finance. The TLDR on Lyra Finance is basically a options protocol. In my opinion, it's going to be the number one options protocol. Right now, it's number two TVL wise. I think it's right behind. Can't even remember who it's behind. Let me get that name. But I think they will do extremely well. If you haven't used Lyra Finance, make sure you check it out. Try it. Play around with it. Oh man, dude, these guys already increased 5 mil in TVL. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're about to flip them. They're $1 million away. When I made the thread 2 or 3 days ago on them, they were maybe 8 mil behind. But yeah, they're about to flip for number one. They're going to be number one in my opinion. Out of all the other stats they've had, yeah, they're seeing the most inflows. They've seen a 20% increase inflow in the past 7 days, whereas everyone else has either seen a rate retracement of like 7 to 20% or an increase in less than a percent. Yeah, Lyra Finance. If you haven't used it, check it out. Play around with it. It has the best UI UX, and it also is just growing. Like
and
just looking
you're
at the dashboard.
yeah, you're mainly looking at because I know that there's three chains on this, right? There's one on ETH, Optimism, and Arbitrum. Which one are you mainly focused on, in which ecosystem, or it doesn't matter
Right now, I have some plays on Arbitrum, but I think Optimism is going to be the
for
best
Lyra
play.
or Lyra?
Are you talking about plays on Optimism?
No, yeah. So you mentioned about Lyra, right? How it's grown a good amount on TVL, right? I was just wondering, are you speaking in terms of Optimism or Arbitrum,
The
or is that
Arbitrum TVL is what's been increasing
got
like
it?
crazy on
Gotcha.
Lyra Finance, but it does have it also is deployed on Optimism. The main issue over on Optimism why they weren't able to grow as quick is because the vaults that people would deposit into, they weren't getting enough deposits, so they would basically have caps, so people wouldn't be able to trade. Like the
Hmm.
trade wouldn't be made. There was no liquidity for people to trade. They were having so much demand for their product that they weren't able to meet that demand because they were struggling to get people with deposits over there. And I think once they're getting on the map and people are learning more about them, especially with Arbitrum deployment, I see more people depositing into their vaults over on Optimism, especially if there is a rotation over there. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Perfect.
And
Yeah.
then
So
there is one like
yeah, go
small
ahead.
degen token called DHT, which is D-hedge. Um, I really haven't looked too much into it. I just know it's with synthetics. I would use it for hedging debt, but basically it just like mirrors different tokens. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, D-Hedge has actually been around for over a year
Hmm.
from the last time I looked, right? So I think they actually come from an options background, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. I think they mainly focus on the last time I looked at this, they mainly focused on BTC and ETH primarily. I'm not sure if they added additional other types of tokens on there, but I think the last time I looked it was mainly just BTC and ETH, which is very interesting.
Yeah, D hedge. It's definitely it's a low market cap. I mean, I'm not out there buying it, but I got a lot of locked Velo, and I'm just voting on their pool and just getting free tokens.
So just jumping around here, I think you bring up Velo, and I kind of wanted to bring up the the ultimate narrative for Base L2, right? That's Coinbase. Their L2 that they're going to be launching in the next few months. TBD on the date on that, but so just throwing out some stats, and I want to circle it back to Velo, but approximately there's 110 million verified users on Coinbase. And this is a huge. This is huge news across the board for anyone that wants to get into DeFi and potentially get onboarded. Right, this will potentially add so much more money, liquidity back into L1s, L2s, just kind of like DeFi in general. This would be a nice, safe move for the current customers and the verified users on Coinbase. And so just with that alone, Coinbase Exchange 24 hours volume on a daily basis is it's averaging around $1 billion in total volume on the Coinbase Exchange. So that's just massive. I think that this is going to be huge. Base will probably be the I think they're going to surpass. I'm gonna say this right now, but I think over time they will surpass as being the top L2, and I think they're on the based on what they have, based on what Coinbase um, alone, I think you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I
it
think
would
it's going to
make
be very
sense.
very bullish.
They got a war chest they can pump at it.
I think that there's so much liquidity that's going to be pumped into this, injected into this L2, and obviously they're using the Optimism governance OP stack, so that's very bullish for Optimism. I think that since Optimism has their angle of as an L2 as a service, this and then Coinbase adopting that service as an L2 is massive. And this is where I'm getting at is that when you talked about Velo, do you believe that Velo will be the number one DEX, eventual DEX on base L2?
So I don't know about on base L2 if Velo will be deployed there. I mean, obviously they might think about doing multi-chain, but I don't think it will be the Velo token. It'll probably be like a partner token because it wouldn't dilute yields. It would just kind of mess with the flywheel because how these solidly forks work is they basically become a liquidity black hole for that chain. And I think putting incentives outside of the chain would mess with the flywheel and it would dilute holders. I mean, it's always possible. It's not out of question, but I haven't seen other protocols that have done this. Kind of how I look at the OP token. I don't look at it as a token that's going to do like a 5x, 10x type of thing. I look at it like the curve token, and it will be reflexive in bull markets and in bear markets. So it will do more than you expect it to do in a bull market, and it will dump harder than you expect it to dump in a bear market. Because I see it as like again, the curve token. So it's like an incentive token to where people may be front running the narrative like, oh, well, the OP token is given out as incentives, but really it's just a governance token. It doesn't really do anything, but it's an important part of the flywheel to incentivize developers and users to keep using the chain. And this is important to the Optimism Foundation because, well, they're using the token to stir up people to be like, hey, bro, use the chain. And when people use the chain, they make money. and then they can use that money to further pump in either buybacks with the OP token or flow in more OP token to incentivize more users to use the chain, which, well, not use the chain, but incentivize developers. The developers, they usually give some of the tokens to users, so users use it and earn money. It's just how it rolls.
Yeah, obviously, I'm just speculating based on the current offerings that Optimism has, right? Velodrome, you got obviously Aave Curve, which is going to be obviously probably going to be used on there. I wouldn't see why not. But yeah, I was just thinking about the offerings that Optimism has at this point. Lyra being one of them, right? Or I'm just thinking that since this is already built off of the Optimism stack, I wouldn't see an issue for them to migrate over to this base L2 layer. I don't know how that's obviously going to be implemented, but wouldn't that just be like a one-to-one type of integration, right? Go
I
from
could see Lyra doing it. I don't know about Velodrome though.
okay.
What? Why? Just curious. How do you think they would do it? Um, with Velodrome, like, how do you think they would be able to deploy on
Oh, I mean, and
base
I'm
chain?
not sure. I'm not sure about the tokenomics at that point, but I was looking at it more so on the Optimism bevy of different products that we have, right? Optimism has Velo. They have, and I'm just looking at mainly the native projects. Sunny Finance. I was looking at Pika Protocol, and I'm just kind of scrolling down here. OPX Finance as a derivative contract, and then some other ones down here. Beyond 50. But I was thinking about in terms of the whatever that's being offered and run on Optimism would be migrated potentially over to Base, and I'm just talking about that out loud, just because they're built off of the same governance, VOP stack, and all that.
I think it's doable for, well, not I think, I know it's doable for several of the other protocols. Um, I just think depending on which one it is, it's just going to be more dilutive. Um,
Mhm.
so, like a solidly fork, in my opinion, it would be hard for them to do that because that is really what the flywheel is made to do. Um, I don't, I don't think there's any solidly fork that is multi-chain because
Mhm.
that's how the flywheel works. I mean, there will be other forks that are out there, but they just deploy on different chains.
So what you're
So
saying, what you're saying is that there's a huge opportunity here for potential devs out there and potential protocols that would be gunning for a spot to get into base. I mean, if I was a dev, if I was, I would make sure that I would try my best to kind of get lined up here and prepare all the documents and get ready for this base L2 open.
yeah, I think it would be a pretty good idea for someone to deploy a solidly fork over there, especially if there's no form of concentrated liquidity, because concentrated liquidity is a major competitor for the solidly forks, being that it's able to steal trading volume from it because it gives better prices. The whole reason why solidly forks work is because you can consider them like wholesale, and they do well, their flywheel does well as long as they're getting a lot of volume. If they have something taking away from that, it's going to break the flywheel.
Definitely. Obviously, there's more to come on this. Whenever the base L2 goes live, we don't know. I mean, I don't know at this point, but I am waiting, and I will deploy a lot of cash over there to play around. And because I'm sure that the liquidity that's going to be injected into this L2 is going to be massive.
Yeah, I'm sure Base Chain will, or Coinbase will want to do something, especially with like the latest, not latest news, but with Apple blocking their NFT marketplace, and CZ talks about it all the time on Binance Chain.
Yep.
He expects everything to go to DeFi, and Coinbase could benefit from that because it's a direct off ramp. So like, hey, you're in Coinbase. Oh well, look, don't go to Binance Smart Chain DeFi. Don't go to Optimism DeFi. Look, we got a DeFi chain right here. Just use it. And I mean, like, I'm sure they get a cut of this. Like Optimism probably says, hey, look, thanks for using the OP stack. Here's some tokens. Like
Hmm.
Curve, like you provide liquidity on Curve. Curve is like, hey, thanks for providing liquidity with us. Here's some Curve tokens. They try to. It's a flywheel. You got to make a win-win for everyone, or else the flywheel breaks. And that's why I like the solidly forks, is because it creates a win-win for everyone.
Yep. Yep. Good points all around there. But yeah, moving on to the next topic here. I just wanted to talk about the liquidations last night. You briefly touched upon it early in the call here, and the BTC went down from 23.4K all the way down to 22.1K. Potentially, whichever exchange you're looking at, it could have been 22,000 BTC. So a lot of negativity when you bring up March of any single month in the year, right? March is apparently, and this is an aggregated thing that people look at trends and all that. March is known to be one of the most bearish months when it comes to being exposed to risk assets, and so there's a lot of negative things to look out for this month that's going to affect your bags apparently if you are risk on. And here is a small little list I'm just gonna shoot off. It's liquidity evaporated based on the liquidations that we just had last night. Voyager liquidating, currently liquidating. We have Celsius liquidating. We have Silvergate potentially going bankrupt because of the detachment from Coinbase. We have the Shanghai unlocks, which has been pushed back for a week or two, flowing into April. And then we also have the Mount Gox unlocks. Now, the Mount Gox unlock has been over almost 10 years of a battle. Going back to, I think it was 2013, 2014 is when Mount Gox basically had, I think their founder, and correct if I'm wrong, Drake, their founder just took off with it, and with all the exchange money and the BTC that was on there,
That
and
sounds
took
about
off.
right.
Yeah, and now they are trying to give it back to, um, back to the folks that were affected by by that hack, and it's just a bad thing, and it's 140,000, 140K BTC that's going to be potentially unlocked, and that's equating to at this current, this day in prices is $3 billion worth of USD of BTC. So
Nice.
what are your thoughts on this? Because we look at, if we tie these both together, the Shanghai unlocks, which will be in early April, which is around 17 million ETH, and just adding that with the Mt. Gox unlocks, it's not going to happen all at once, right? Mt. Gox. I think the initial disbursements will begin in March, and I think they're going to span it all the way until September of this year. So it's not going to all happen all at once. It's going to be slowly dispersed. And I think there was three options. They can either keep their BTC, they can either receive a USD, refund, unlock, or I think the third option is to keep BTC. Is there a third unlock? Or sorry, the third option? I thought there was only two. I thought there was three, but maybe there was just two, which would make most sense.
I haven't looked into the details on it. I mean, I know a lot of these things, like with the Mount Gox, and whenever you have attorneys involved, even though they may say it happens on this date, I think it'll get delayed again.
Mm.
Um, just me personally, I think, I mean, unless they announce it and close the case, and that's a little bit different. But I haven't really been following it closely. Um,
Yeah,
but
it's
yeah,
just the
I don't know.
potential for $3 billion plus of BTC being dumped on the market potentially. Now, I did get a few folks on Twitter. I just looking at Mt. Gox, just like retweets and all that. I think some of the folks that are actually going to receive BTC or USD back from this Mt. Gox unlock, I think since they have been maxis for over 10 years now, I think they will receive most of this, and either take a tiny bit of profits because obviously BTC has been up a significant amount since 2013. Take a little bit of profits and then potentially flow it into altcoins. And then the third option is they keep it. They keep the BTC.
I think the
So
altcoin ones might be interesting.
yeah, I think that's probably most since they're so BTC at that point 2013. I think at that point you only had like ETH and Litecoin available at that point, maybe XRP in 2013 2014. And now we have so much. The technology has grown and innovated so much since that I honestly think that not all of this BTC money and USD is going to be bad for the market. I think it's honestly a net positive because all of this new projects that's out and new ecosystem plays in DeFi that was born in 2019 2020. It's a net positive in my opinion. I don't think that the market is going to completely roll over. I think that if you're looking at a short term to medium term, the market could be bearish because of this. It's the high inflow of this new money that was basically locked away gone for like the last 10 years coming back into the market. It's going to be pretty interesting on how the money will flow and where it will flow.
Yeah, I'd be kind of curious to know though. I wonder if I wouldn't say they're front running it because the liquidity hasn't hit the market yet. But I wonder if some people are like, oh yeah, it's probably going to be bearish, and I'm just going to wait till this news comes out, and then I'll figure out what I want to do. That's the same thing I think on the Shanghai update. Now, I mean, I don't know if it's going to be true or not, if it's already priced in. I mean, it's hard to even price it in because the liquidity is not on the market yet. But I don't know. I think it's just going to be one of those things where I just look at long-term plays. If there is a dip, I'll use some cash that I have to buy up some dips and invest for the long term. I mean, sure, I still degen on some things here and there, but it's maybe like 3% of the portfolio, maybe 4%.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how the market will react and how the market will absorb this impact. And it's going to be interesting, especially since there's a bullish catalyst with base L2 coming out this in a few months. We've already seen potential bottom. It could be a false bottom, but this year is going to be pretty insane, especially with risk on assets. You're looking at the Dow Jones and the Nasdaq just trying to hold on right now to their recent highs. In my opinion, I think the market will correct even more. I am a big chart guy. I love charts. I follow money flow mostly. I follow the strength, the RSI, and just I don't see crypto decoupling from the traditional markets, but I do see that there's obviously this whole entire year is going to be the year of accumulating your favorite projects, your favorite tokens, your favorite coins, and it's going to be a huge possibility because whatever you do now at this year is going to be massive in the next next year, 2 years, 3 years, and you can really reap the rewards if you invest wisely during this time when everyone's scared.
Yeah, yeah, I'd agree with that statement as well. Also, be careful if you are out there like looking at coins, thinking there's going to be the next 100x or this thing will be here forever. A lot of these projects and a lot of these protocols aren't going to be here a year from now or even 6 months from now. So make sure you choose accordingly and choose wisely. A good way to measure if you're actually making the right choice is, let's say, for example, you could only pick 10 crypto tokens. If you could only pick 10 tokens, would that token be on that list of 10? If no, then move on to the next. If
Mhm.
yes, then, well, it could be a pick. This also helps to force you to do the research, look into it, and make sure you have the proper conviction on it. And obviously, if you are going to degen, just make sure you do it with a small percent of your portfolio. because you have Bitcoin, which is risky. You have ETH, which is also risky, and then you have these altcoins, which are just like crazy risky. As you can see, like yesterday, with a what was it, 3 or 4% move, maybe 5% move in Bitcoin, the altcoin market just it gets wrecked. It goes down 20, 25%, which for some it may not seem like a lot, but it's just evaporated just like that. So just something to be careful with. But speaking of degen and plays, Abs, what are you looking at?
Outside of ETH, I'm looking at ecosystems. Again, you mentioned optimism. I'm going to quickly touch upon Arbitrum and then go to my main one. But Arbitrum is actually, obviously the unique wallets have been going up. Transactions has been going up. The numbers for Arbitrum in general has been green, and it's been green since I think it's probably since October of last year, 2022. So everything that's on Arbitrum that was early. I think that was mainly, and I'm gonna pull it up here. Radiant being one of them. Radiant has been on a tear. I when I first got into Arbitrum in September, October last year, Radiant was sitting around 2 to 3 cents, which is just insane. It's sitting at mid 20 cents right now, 25. I think the high it was 32 cents. So that's just massive for that. GMX, obviously, we talked about it last episode. GMX has been massive. It's going to continue to be that way. And then we have new ones that came up recently. We talked about again last week. It was Zyber Swap, Solid Lizard, and we mentioned briefly about Vela Exchange. Vela is actually something that's people can keep their eye on. TVL is at 43, 44 million. It's one of the newer platforms. It's in my opinion, I think it's going to steal and take away a little bit of that GMX money, their market share. But yeah, Vela is actually on the lower, the lower on the list at this point. I think it's at 12 in terms of TVL, but I think in due time, it's probably going to be in the top 5. So yeah, and then so I really wanted to touch upon Phantom ecosystem really quick, and that's where I'm just kind of trading back and forth and looking into some of the higher quality ones, right? The Spooky Swap, the Beethoven,
Do you hear
Equalizer.
about Beats and Reliquary?
No, enlighten me.
So Reliquary, it's kind of the reverse process of Curve, to where you reward the users that stake longer. They just deployed it this month. I think it was like 2 days ago. But basically, you get it's kind of like the GMX model. You get multiplier points the longer you stake. I mean, it's not multiplier points, but you get boosts. So let's say, for example, you have 10% APR, like right now. In about, I don't know, 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, whatever it is, the maximum is 11 weeks. Let's say you have the NFT for 3 weeks. Well, now that 10% APR with the multiplier points could be like 25%, 30%. And it's just rewarding those users who are long-term bullish and supporting the protocol by staking longer. So instead of rewarding mercenary capital, which is someone who's just like, yeah, I'll lock my tokens for 4 years, and then as soon as I lock them, I'm just going to dump on the market to get my cash back. Instead, it's like, hey, look, I'm bullish on the protocol. I deposit in here. Now my tokens are going to be sitting there, and as long as I'm staying and sitting here, I'm just going to be incentivized even more and more, and my multiplier points will increase. Similar model to GMX.
Interesting.
And it's going to be an NFT, so you can like transfer that, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, so you mentioned about the NFT kind of multiplier there, but I was just wondering if you know anything about the Equalizer Exchange NFTs.
I do.
Yeah, so can you
They're selling
explain that
like
a little?
hotcakes.
Yeah, right. It's like number one on Paint. Paint Swap. Can you explain how that should be played?
So I don't know if they're. I think all the discounts are gone, but they were selling at a discount for. I don't know. It was a tiny discount. It was maybe like 5 to 6%. Whereas something like Velodrome, some of those NFTs are like 50, 60% off of what that means is like if you have a $10,000 NFT, like worth of Velo tokens, you're only going to get like $5,000 because that's what the going market is. Whereas on Equalizer, it's basically the same. Like people are paying just about the same value for tokens that are locked for 6 months. The reason why, in my opinion, that Equalizer is getting that much traction and a lot of people are buying up those NFTs is one, it's still somewhat early on the protocol. If you're looking at TVL wise, it still has a lot of growth to be had. Two, these NFTs are getting paid nuts and ham. Like they are earning way more than any of the other solidly forks. I don't have a Equalizer NFT myself. Most of my tokens are just liquid for it. But I've talked with a couple people, and they're like, "Dude, the ROI on this is you basically can get your money back in like 2 months, 2 to 3 months, like what you pay on the NFT. Obviously, the prices have to stay the same or increase as time goes, and the bribes have to stay the same. But the holders are being taken care of with rewards from the bribes, and they're also getting a lot of volume because first, if you remember, Uniswap isn't over there, so they don't have concentrated liquidity. They do have Kyber Swap, but Kyber Swap doesn't have a meaningful TVL to be able to vamp that. So basically, Equalizer is the number one DEX. So any volume that happens on Phantom is just being routed through, not Phantom, through Equalizer, through any of the aggregators or straight on there. And basically, projects that list on Equalizer or that get their main liquidity over there, it's just driving more volume, and that volume is paid to the stakers. So it just creates this crazy flywheel. But yeah, that's mainly why those are selling out. It's just basically the go-to DEX on Phantom. It just has a lot of demand.
It's just so positive. It looks like equal being what is it around $10 at this point per
Mm-hmm.
equal? Yeah, and it looks pretty nice. I mean, looking at the NFTs on PaintSwap, you can have you can kind of buy any of these lower end ones, and then if you kind of keep scrolling down, you get to see um, these VE equal NFTs that has a balance of 150 equal tokens. And this one, just kind of looking at the floor here, it's going for 3,100 Phantom, and it matures in about 10 weeks. That's very interesting. So if you're bullish on Equal and Equalizer Exchange, that's actually a pretty cool and interesting game right there. This game theory.
Yeah, you can just buy them straight on the marketplace.
That's interesting. Yeah. So
But
looking at that, but yeah.
yeah, some of them you do have to make sure that the votes aren't locked in. So like if it's voting and it's attached to an LP, you can't buy it. So if you look in the section where it says matures and da 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 da, this VE NFT is transferable, not voting and unattached. If it says not transferable, that means it has some LPs attached to it and it's voting. So you can't buy those. Looking at the floor, it looks like, yeah, most of these look like they're, well, there is one. There is a discount. So they have some on discount right now, which is nice.
Yeah. Thanks for explaining that. It makes so much more sense now. But yeah, I'm also looking at Liquid Driver, being nice yield protocol, Deuce, and I think one it's worth mentioning at this point that actually has around 4.5 million in TVL. It's ranked 26 in Phantom ecosystem. It's called Wigo Swap, WIGO Swap. Very interesting play because in this time last year they had a TVL of almost 100 million, if not 100 million, in their ecosystem, and they revamped recently. So they made a few changes on their website, and it's actually like they're taking the idea that they want to gamify um, their their swap exchange, and they actually have uh, a few tabs that you can kind of earn. You can do your normal vaults, you can do your normal farming. You can also do a little bit of the predict. So they have this little mechanism where every 5 minutes or so, it's really, really degen. Every 5 minutes or so, you can you can risk up to however many FTM that you want to. So every single, and it's based on the FTM price. So whatever if the FTM price goes up, and you bet that it's going to be in the green, you'll get paid out almost 1-to-1. And the same thing goes for if you bet red. So it's kind of insane. So they do that, and then they're going to eventually have a raffle portion of that as well. That's coming soon, but it looks like a very, very clean type of an exchange that it's kind of low on a low TVL in my opinion at 4.5 million, and they also did receive recently from the Phantom Foundation a little small grant. I think they received around 2,500 FTM recently. So it's an interesting play. I think that it actually it pumped a little bit the price, and just kind of keep that in your back pocket if you're interested in looking at investing in Wigo. But it's
Wigo. Yeah, I
yeah.
was looking at Wigo swap and I was just thinking it was just like another one of those food farms.
Yeah. So I was looking at that, and there is another interesting play too. That I bought a few NFTs within this three ecosystem type protocol. It's Cranium Exchange. It's Skull Swap, and I think they're having a third protocol within their three ecosystem play. It's supposed to be like a depegging type of protocol, which is still TBD on when it's going to go live. But yeah, check out Skull Swap. They have some decent APRs, and also Cranium is actually it's a GMX fork, and so they just started around like a week and a half ago. The protocol went live, and they had some nice little traction to begin with, just kind of being small. But yeah, Skull tokens right now are around $15, and I think the listing initial listing of these was around 15 cents to 20 cents. So it's a nice price.
So back on what you were kind of talking about the DPEG, is that like Y2K?
um, can you explain Y2K? Because I'm not familiar.
Okay, so Y2K, it allows you to, it's kind of like options for depegging. So
Yes,
like
that's exactly
you
right. That's
can,
exactly right. Yes.
yeah, so like you can do it for like stable coins if you think it's gonna depeg, or like different wrappers or whatever.
Hmm.
That's really all it is.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think the idea is that they're going to have a few stables going to be offered on there, and you can do option trading based on those stables. It's
Hmm.
I've never actually got into that type of play before, but it's interesting game theory.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I'd
but
have to
yeah, I
check
mean,
that one out.
outside of Arbitrum, outside of Optimism, I'm heavily looking into in basically a little back and forth with Phantom. So that's where I'm at, and that's what I'm looking at. So I'm not sure if there's anything else to kind of update on. I think it's a huge conversation that we've had. We talked about liquidations, talked about Coinbase L2, and talked about your current plays, my current plays, and what to look out for in the next coming weeks. Anything else there,
Yeah,
Drake? Drake?
and maybe NFTs. No, no, I'm messing. I'm messing. Um, yeah, I think that would be it for the most part. Me NFT wise, if you wanted to say something, uh, is have you heard of potatoes? Crypto
Yes.
potatoes.
Yes. Yes.
Nine gag is a legend when it comes to NFTs. If you guys haven't listened to an AMA with that guy, um, it's crazy. He understands it. He gets it. Basically, TLDR is get what the community wants and give it to them. I mean, but if you look at the potatoes right now, what are they doing?
Last
Oh,
time I looked, it
good.
was around 2.2.
Yeah, it's 2.29. But what's interesting is only less than 1% of these are listed. They're out farming or on quest, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that's crazy, man. Potatoes. This will either age well or age horribly.
And I think they recently had when I say recently, maybe about 2.5 months, maybe they had Meme Land or the Captains
Yeah,
collection that came out.
yeah. The captains, and you need three potatoes. So one captains and three potatoes, and you can go on a quest.
Yeah, that's Yeah, I don't know that much about that ecosystem, but um, I did look into Kang's community, Kwang's. Do you know that ecosystem?
I don't know Kongs, but I heard
Yeah.
that. I got an NFT chat and someone was talking about it. They were doing like I think the Sad Times NFT was doing a partner mint or something with them. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It seems like that ecosystem is very interesting as well. So I used to own Cubs with a Z, and I basically had three of them. They had a relics slash treasure NFT that was basically airdropped to them, and so how to it's a crafting mechanism, and you can basically take like every single one of these Cubs. You're able to have some type of stamina for every single one of those cubs, and you're able to craft these relics. You attach these relics to each cubs, and you basically craft. And if it's successful, it's a smaller percentage. And there's a breakdown somewhere in the docs, but if you craft and it's like a 10 to 15% based on rarity. So if you do like a common relic, there's like a 20% chance of you upgrading that common to a rare, and then it keeps going up, and then the rarity decreases, and the percentages would decrease. Obviously, if you get a legendary and you're trying to get a mythical, right, it's like a 1% chance, but you obviously would have more chances, right, when you have your cubs basically being restocked with that stamina. So it's a really interesting type of play. It's a longer term play because I know that this relics um play is around 90 days. It's like 3 months to craft. But but yeah, there's like it's a really cool ecosystem where they do a lot of raffles. It keeps their investors and keeps their holders engaged. And there's many points where if you delist, then you earn these spirituality points on your dashboard, and you can basically turn those into raffle tickets and enter these raffles. And it's actually really interesting if you look at the Cubs NFT, and you can see the same exact conditions, right? You're looking at basically 1 to like 2% at all times, where you can see the listed, right? So
crazy.
it's actually incentivizes the holders to delist. You earn points that way, and you enter these raffles for whitelist tickets, and you enter these raffles for um, NFTs. So yeah, I would highly suggest for you guys to kind of do your due diligence and take a look at that ecosystem.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look at that one. Dabble in
Yeah,
NFTs a bit. I'm not the best
yeah,
at them. Anyone I buy, just watch out. It's going to go to zero if I buy.
same. I think last time I looked, Cubs was sitting around the point nines. Um, Speaking of point nines, Valhalla. I spoke about this last week. Valhalla was sitting at, I think it was hovering around point 0.8, 0.85 when we last talked about this. In a few short days after our first DeFi Edge episode, Valhalla saw a surge to 1.22, and now it's come back and it's kind of hovering around that point 0.9. I think that later this month they're going to be showcasing their beta platform that's competing with Twitch. So we'll see how that turns out. We're all kind of in the community. We're all kind of just hanging out, um, and most of there's gamers within that community. They actually are, like, it's on fire, this community. And there was a recent, basically, Valhalla has linked up with PXN and Underground to do I believe, a Fortnite tournament that has prizes of like $10,000 USD. So it's something every single week is going on with Valhalla. So take a look at that community, get immersed, read the docs, and check out the NFTs. They're really cool.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet, man. Yeah, I should have pulled the trigger on Valhalla, but I didn't. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I was just kind of getting into the community this past week and just kind of sitting in with them, and I kind of got a gauge on what their target would be for Valhalla by end of this year, and then their target for the upcoming the top of the bull cycle, which it's just you get astronomical like crazy numbers, right, and floor prices. So it's really really cool. I'm very bullish on Valhalla for the long term. So I have a few that's kind of I'm stocked with a few of them. So let me know if you have any questions.
Nah, man. I just got to look into it more, man. NFTs. I always like
It's dangerous.
NFTs. Just yeah, they just don't seem to work for me when they. I don't know, man. Like I already told you my story on checks. But
That's right.
I'm like whatever.
Yeah, I
But
mean
it's
that's
fun. I
another
still
thing
grab
too.
some here and there.
Yeah, and I think we should talk about checks on our next episode. I think that's an idea that kind of get into it because I don't really know that much about it. I know that it's from Jack Butcher, and he's apparently creating a lot of waves with this collection. And I guess there's a lot of folks that just anything that Jack produces, I think they're basically all in because it's a new innovative NFT collection on what he's doing, and I have to look into it more as well.
Yeah,
So
what
that
Jack touches turns to gold, man. That
yeah.
guy was legendary in what he created, and it was pretty cool. Just think kind of what Ohm did to DeFi. I mean,
Hmm.
it was even though it like got way more like pricing wise, it went way over than what it should have been. It changed the way we use DeFi and how protocols uh, obtain their, or I guess you can say, do bonds or build up their treasury, especially with the protocol and liquidity. Several of the mechanics that they invented just changed DeFi as we know it.
Mm. Yeah, we'll have to do a little deep dive on that.
Yeah, so TLDR on the checks though. Have you heard of open mints?
Yes, open
Yeah,
editions.
so yeah, that's mainly like Jack. He started that trend. The like that's what the checks were minting at. It just started as an open edition, like yeah, mint whatever. And then he created a game out of it. It's I'll get more into it next week to explain it to you, but it just changed the way you look at NFTs or how we mint NFTs now. People are open to doing open mints now because
Hmm.
of what he created. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn more about that. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, that's our last piece of our topics that we have here at hand. But yeah, Drake, it's been awesome. This is an awesome episode number 2, and looking forward to having more here.
Yeah, we'll be on for episode 3. I forgot last week. We didn't end out with a wisdom one liner. We got to do it for this one. So we'll close with a wisdom one liner and say peace out.
Yeah, sounds good.
Proverbs chapter 11, verses 2. When pride comes, then comes disgrace. But with humility comes wisdom. What does that mean? Be humble and you'll be wise. All right,
Mm.
guys.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much
All
for your
right.
time.
Cheers. See ya.